Hello, this is Lisa LaRose here on Connect to Love on PRNFM, and I'm so delighted to have Michael J. Russ join me. We both had some interesting adventures last week, and we are both on the other side of them smiling. And I just wanted to say there's a wonderful quote that I think sums it up, and it's by Thich Nhat Hanh. And he said, "Sometimes your joy is the source of your smile, but sometimes your smile can be the source of your joy." And so I got a big smile on my face, and I'd like to say welcome, Michael.
Welcome.
You always bring me so much joy, and I just want to thank you for that. And we've been blessed to have guests on the show that have left us, I think, better people once we had conversations with them. And I hope that our audience feels the same way, because there's just been so much wisdom and so many insights. And I think that one of the things that really has made an impact of the last 3 shows is that your reality is something that you create. It's something that you feed. If you maintain a high vibration, that is what you bring forth in your reality. And that's what brings forth joy. I mean, it's not the other way around. And so I know, Michael, you had a story that you wanted to share. So let's kick it off with that, and we'll go from there.
Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. Always a pleasure to be with you. The interesting thing about the last couple of shows I know that we did with Carol Collins, the Pittsburgh Medium, it was so phenomenal. So many insights, so many pearls of wisdom that for me, I've taken the last few weeks to just listen to them again on some of her YouTube videos, some of the channelings, and it's so practical, and it seems simple, yet it can be complicated if you overthink it. And the thing that I wanted to tell you a little story about a gentleman down the street whose wife of 50 years passed away in December. And she had cancer, not once, but twice. And he decided that he was self-employed, and he decided that they decided they would make the most of her time. You know, as most people do. Usually, when you have a near-death situation or a situation where death could be involved, it really kind of shifts the paradigm of thinking that you apply to life, where the little things that you thought were important no longer hold the weight or have the gravity that you give to them. And it was interesting about him because I just met with him. He called me over today. I was walking by his house. I was on my long walk. And he said, "Hey, Michael, how you doing?" I said, I'm awesome. That's what you do. He said, "I just came back from a cruise." Now, I'd known that he when we had a previous conversation, I said, "How's Jane?" I mean, I'm not how's Jane, but I had left him a card. And I said, "How are you doing?" And he said, "Well, it was a long battle with Jane. We did some great things. We left nothing on the table. And then she passed." And I was, of course, I spent a month, he says, wallowing in my own sorrow. And then after a month, I said, "What the heck am I doing?" And he said, "Screw it. I'm out of here." And he said, I've got more life to live. And it was a pivotal shift that he made. He said in about a month's time, he'd grieved. He said, "I've grieved enough." And he just told me this morning that the gal he's been dating from Port St. Joe, which is about an hour and a half away from here, he just asked her to marry him. He said, evidently he found someone. He says, "I am so enthusiastic. I'm having more fun than I've had in a long time." And it was new love. It was fresh love. It was new companionship. And he just came back from his cruise, and he says, "Hey, I asked you to marry me, and I'm getting my house ready to sell. And I'm gonna move to Port St. Joe." He said, "I love it down there." And I said, "New life, baby, new life." Yeah, it was wonderful. And I said, "That's so awesome." I said, "It's so amazing to see that kind of transformation happen." And it's not that it was a short period of time, because I don't really think it was. I think for everybody has to take whatever time they need to take to grieve. And he said, I got to get my kids over here to go through her things and take what they want. Her jewelry and have them disseminate what they want to do with the clothing. And I said, it's important to move that energy in your house, because it's energy that no longer needs to be there. And I think about that now all the time. When Carol had passed on the fact from the collective that, you are what you see, and you think about that, you are what you look at. And I said, how can that be? You create your reality. It takes creating your reality to a completely different level. And I started just getting into the nuance of what that really means. What you see, how does that impact you? How does it impact how you feel? We in our society today are exposed to a whole plethora of an exponential number of things. And if you're talking about media or social media or other things, 99% of it, not 99%, that's probably a bit too much. A very high percentage of it, let's say in the 90s, if it wants to move forward, it's negative. It's negative. News is negative, designed to be negative, because negativity sells. Commercials will give you the bad and tell you what you need to avoid, sell the avoidance concept. And I look at these things and I say, okay, let's start applying this. What am I looking at? What am I exposing myself to? And I had told you before the show that when I walk into my office, it's like I designed it to be the most positive energy, uplifting energy. I could spend all day in this office, and I do in many cases. I could come in here at 7 o'clock in the morning if I've really got to get some work done, and I don't leave here till 5. I don't have to go downstairs and get something to eat. I might, but I could stay here because it's so nourishing. And we as individuals, as individual souls, I don't think we give enough thought to that, about how our own environment impacts how we feel. When you get up in the morning and the first thing you do is turn on news to find out what happened last night while you were asleep, or last night while you were doing something else out with friends, you're going to get the stream of negativity, and that's going to impact your energy grid, your grid and your energy field. Basically, when you're looking at it, that's going to taint your energy. Versus if you woke up in the morning and you played some really cool music, uplifting, very joyful, some of your favorite stuff, music that was positive, or you watched something that was positive, HGTV perhaps, because it causes you to think creatively. You become inspired to do something in your own surroundings. It gets your creative and inspirational juices flowing. So there's a big difference in that. So I started really kind of micromanaging what I expose my eyes to and my senses to, touch, taste, smell, feel, all that stuff. What am I exposing myself to? And that's been the journey that I've been on for a couple of weeks now, since we first started having that conversation. I had Carol on the show, and it's been quite illuminating, very illuminating.
It is. I think what you do is you start catching yourself. And I just want to say, Michael, you know what I really love about the story about your neighbor is that instead of, staying in the emotions, the heavier emotions of shame or guilt, like, am I waiting the right amount of time, whatever, he's made a conscious decision that he wants to radiate in a vibration of love and peace and joy. He's got that inner peace. He knows that he did the best that he could, and there's no sense to continue. And it's wonderful that he has a new beginning and has a new opportunity for happiness. And I think that's where in life, for whatever reason we have to sort of go beyond our thoughts. And if you can't change the situation when you lose somebody, it's heart-wrenching, especially somebody that you've raised children with and had a long life with. But you need to change your perception of it. And I think that's really where our personal power comes in. And we can either, and we've talked about this before, you can either be controlled by the situation or you can be in control. And when you do that, and you had sent me a video that Eric Alexandrakis had sent you, and it just, it summed it up. There was a wonderful video of a woman who was suffering from dementia, and her 2 granddaughters came to see her, and she had not a lot of recollection about too many things. And then they allowed her to listen to music and raise her vibration. And as soon as she was anchored into the memories that were associated with the vibration of the music she was hearing, it was like the light came on. You could see, like, her face changed. There was just a physical, not just a physical change, but she could start remembering things. And it was amazing. So
her whole conversation changed.
Oh, absolutely. And
she went from having no conversation to being capable of following a train of thought and a conversation. It was stellar. Miracle, miraculous.
In less than, 5 minutes? Less than 5 minutes? I think the whole video
3 minutes.
was 6
minutes. The songs in those days weren't longer than 3 minutes. And it was amazing. I can't remember the song, but it was a crooner. I thought it was
Frank
Dean Martin.
Sinatra? Oh, was it
Frank or Dean? One of those two.
Yeah, one of them.
Yeah, but fantastic. She listened to it, and you could see the first thing she asked when she heard the song is, "Where is he?" It's like, wait a minute. Hold on, like, where is he? Yeah, where is he? I hear him, but where is he? All of a sudden, it just like boom! It's like a sledgehammer just came through and just disrupted everything. And then the music was done, and they took the headphones off for her and asked her the same question they asked ahead of listening to the music. And she came away with a more concise, clear, looked her in the eye answer. It was, whoa. That blew me away. I wish I'd known that when my dad was suffering from dementia for 7 years. It's just amazing what can occur when you put yourself in that situation. Now, think about you and I and our listeners and the value of music. If you play music from a time in your life where you were super joyful, happy, you were feeling the best you've ever felt. Imagine if you put that on when you're at a low point in your day or in your life, how you can automatically shift your own thought paradigm, your own energy, and subsequently your brain cells and what you're thinking, just everything about you. The whole just massage the energy in a completely different direction just by listening to a song. By the way, I do this all the time. I do it all the time. I have a playlist on Spotify, and I play when I'm driving down the street with my top down in my car or whatever. It's a nice day. I'll put on that playlist. I'll put it on when I'm playing golf, believe it or not. I have a speaker in my cart, so I'll turn it on, and I'll play it then. And it keeps me focused, keeps the energy around me focused and within me, and my own energy field focused on positivity. And it's uplifting. We all have that. Oh, we all have that. Each and every one of us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I had seen a meme somewhere, and they had somebody, it reminded me of you, and I actually probably should post it because he was like a DJ spinning records in the galaxy. And it was all about you are your own DJ. You create your own mixtapes, your own, and so what you're sending out, you want to make sure that it's the highest vibrations possible. And even if you do have those low moments, you practice gratitude or some of the other things to stay kind of get yourself out of them as quickly as possible. It's not that, so maybe you need to pick up the phone and call somebody that you know is high vibrational. You need to ask yourself, are the people around you affecting your mood and your state of being? I think that's as important to curate as what you're putting in your office, because if you have people that
No. I'm going to speak this thought. You make an incredibly valid point there, and I like to piggyback on that and say, and talk about something Carol actually did say in the value of this. I've always thought I don't call people to tell them how bad things are or something bad that happened, and we have to be very cognizant of when we are actually doing that. When something's happening with you. Your tendency, it's human nature, I guess, to call somebody and say, hey, you know what just happened to me? Or, this thing is going on in my life and it's terrible and it's this and that. What you're basically doing is you are bringing negative energy into somebody else's energy field because they are paying attention to you. And we have to be very cognizant of the fact that is what we're doing. We want to actually tap into, piggyback on other people's positive energy field, expose ourselves to it so that we can cleanse our own field. Our joy that we get from that conversation or that interaction can actually help to cleanse away some of that negativity from our energy field. And it's really that nuance is crazy. I was married to my second wife. Her favorite thing to do was to come dump all the stuff on me that whenever something was wrong in her life, dump on me. She'd call me from Europe, and that's what she would do. And I'm like, I got so annoyed by that. I said, I don't really.
Yeah, I would understand.
I'm like, I'm in a very positive space, and she'd do it with me while I was at work. And I'm like, I don't have time to talk about this right now. I know there's an 8-hour time difference, but I don't have time to talk about it. This is not the space for me. It's like contaminating my space. I have brought carefully curated some positive energy in my field and in my grid. I have curated my entire environment, and now basically what's happening is I'm being forced to engage with negativity, which I know is contaminating that space that I've so carefully curated. And it is a challenge when you're at a couple, when one couple's positive and the other couple happens to be what we call a Debbie Downer.
Right.
Donald Downer, Dave Downer, whatever you want to say. I don't want to be sexist about it. However, there are people like that, and I so carefully and lovingly let people know that, okay, this is something. What I would love for you to do is to not call me in the moment, calm down, and think about what happened. And quickly ask yourself, what can I learn from this? And that's what we call, I know that one of the women, Miss Saint Germain, was talking about living in the fifth dimension. Mm-hmm. When you live in the fifth dimension, you ask yourself different questions. You don't ask yourself why this happened. You ask yourself, what can I learn from what just happened? How can I benefit from what just happened? Because there's a different train of thought there. And when it comes to things that happen to you, my goal is always to operate from a higher level instead of being sucked down into the drama and the noise, the distraction and the negativity, the toxicity of whatever it is that happened. When you're looking at this being this life being a premium learning opportunity, everything that happens is a learning opportunity. It's an opportunity to advance ourselves as human beings, as human souls in human form. And that perception alone is fifth dimensional.
Right.
It's life changing as well, because we start asking ourselves different questions, and we have to, and all of this impacts our energy. All of it impacts our joy, and how we feel about ourselves. And it's a fascinating topic. There's no end to it. I have discovered, and there's Yeah, there's no end of of curating what you expose yourself to.
Well, one of the things that I really, go ahead, Michael.
Go ahead. No, please.
I
was going to say there's one other question.
When you were speaking, it made me think about, one of the things that Carol said was, what are you feeding the grid? And even if you don't have that right now as your reality, if you feed the grid, it's the old adage, fake it till you make it. So, your goal isn't necessarily to get rid of all the negative thoughts, because you can't really control what comes into your day. You're going to have these little speed bumps, but it's how you change your response to that. And I think and so, after a while, you get better and better at these external events and how your mind responds to it. But when you were talking, and I thought about feeding, what are you feeding? And if you've ever seen somebody feed a baby, and the baby food really doesn't look, a lot of it didn't used to look very good, very appetizing. But you see the mother, and she gets the spoon, and she's got a big, huge smile on her face, and she tastes it. And she's like, oh, my goodness, this is so delicious. And then she pops it in the baby's mouth. And the baby's like, and then the mother has like a big, wide smile and expression. And it's sort of like that. I kind of like that illusion of. And I've been practicing that too. It's like, okay, you know what? Let's take a little taste of this. Let's take of that, and let's just keep feeding it into the grid. And that's sort of what I've been practicing.
There's something that, from what you said there's something that came to mind that Carol Collins was in the collective we're talking about. It's called a flip-flop. The flip-flop. And I just love it, because she said it like, I don't know, 3 or 4 times. Flip flop, flip flop, flip flop, flip flop. Like, it's what I've been saying for the last, decade in my podcast. It's like transforming negative to positive is really like a flip flop. When you find yourself either knee deep in some sort of negative thought, or you have an initial negative thought about something, negative perception, you've got to do a flip flop. You've got to take it from negative to positive ASAP as quickly as possible, so it doesn't have the impact on your energy field or your grid. And that is the suggestion I give to people now, because I'm going to put it in the podcast here in a little bit. However, it's a great terminology to use to remember, because it's easy. Right. I'm thinking when you have this realization that you're embroiled in a negative thought, you got to say the words flip-flop. How do I get out of this and get to something else? Whatever you need to do, whatever alchemy you need to perform to go to do the flip-flop from negative to positive, you have to do it. And it's always good to develop your own little unique take on how you actually do that. Some people, it could be, I'm going to put in this song. Other people, it could be fake it till you feel it, which does work, because you're actually flipping from a negative thought to a positive thought, even though, and you're leaving that negative thought behind. And the other thing that she was alluding to is, how many positive thoughts would you have to cancel out the negative one? I think you had mentioned 3. I think you mentioned in a previous podcast that we did 3 positive thoughts can wipe out a negative thought. And I believe that the collective concurred with that you think that positive thought, think that positive thought, think that positive thought. Do it over and over again. Repeat it until the negative thought has dissipated. And that's kind of the way I used to do it years ago when I was when there's something that happened to me that I couldn't control and my initial response was negative, I'd have to turn around and do something positive, and then positive again and positive again. Do it several times, repeat it in order to negate that thought. And that is what, how that's kind of the unique creative thing that everybody can do. Whether you have a favorite song and all of a sudden you just play that favorite song and it puts you in a different mood and the negativity just falls away. Could be something else. Could be going in the kitchen and scrambling some eggs. I don't know. Could be anything.
Right. And I think that's part of it. You take that unconscious mind and you make it conscious. You replace the thought with an awareness so that when you notice your thoughts, it becomes a choice. And I think the more and more that you do it, you empower the positive thoughts. And I found this meme, this this graphic, and I want to read this because, and then I have a question for you. So it says, if everything is sound and vibration, you're the DJ of your own existence. So, Michael J. Rush, you being the DJ of your own existence, what would you be spinning on those records to, to raise those sound and vibrations? I would love to hear, whether it be meditation, I know, or some of the other things that you do to create that.
Okay, listen, there are about 3 or 4 songs that I actually have, but I'll tell you one that just about everybody knows. Everybody has heard of Earth, Wind, and Fire, great group from the 70s. They have a live album. They have a live album from Japan, Earth, Wind, and Fire live in Japan, and their version of September is the absolute best for shifting mood. It's the absolute best. All you have to do is put the song on. I play it on the drums all the time. It gets you so energized. If you just listen to it, you cannot help. But, I mean, I challenge anyone to actually stand still or have a thought that's negative, not even a split second into that tune. Such a positive vibe. Everything they wrote is a curation of positivity and soulfulness, joy and love and happiness. But the live version is about 30 beats a minute faster than the regular version that they played on the radio, and it's up tempo, kicked up to a whole new notch, a whole new level. And believe it or not, this was live from Japan back in the 80s, early 80s. When they play live today, even though there are only about, I think, 3 original members left, the actual the song is exactly the same as the live version from Japan back in the 80s. Okay, the way that the music and the tempo, everything, all the changes, they're all exactly the same. So when Michael White and Verdine White and the others got together and they decided to create the live version, nothing has changed. It has such the same energy. And I did see them on television on some tribute program here in the last month, and they only had one song to play, and that was
really? Wow.
That was the song they played, and it's the exact rendition. The word is escaping me right now. When a conductor creates music, the word escapes me, and I apologize for that. However, there's a word for when you take music and you just recreate it. Yes, there you go. That's the word I'm looking for.
There you go.
The arrangement from the 80s is the exact same arrangement that they play today. If you see them live, that would be the arrangement. And it was beautiful then. It was perfect, and it's perfect today. However,
that's a beautiful metaphor. I love that, though, for life. Yeah. You arrange things. Yeah.
It is awesome. I agree with that. So true. I love that. Yeah. I love that saying.
No, I'm gonna have to seek that out. We're gonna have to find that and make it available to our audience to listen to. That sounds amazing. They were always one of my favorites.
Well, we might have to pay them a royalty because this is radio.
Yeah, that's true.
You got to watch that. But the audience can find it, whether it's Spotify, Pandora, or whatever. Earth, Wind, and Fire live in Japan. The song is September, and it's amazing. Have you ever seen? I know you have. You ever seen the Night at the Museum movies? Night at the Museum.
Yes, I love them. Yes, I love them all.
Each movie ends with the Earth, Wind, and Fire song, not September.
Oh, that's right.
Remember? How did you feel? This is what I want to ask you. How did you feel at the end of that movie when you heard that song play?
Oh, completely dancing out of the street. Couldn't wait for the next one to come. Absolutely.
I love movies. I love movies that actually do that. I love watching movies that at the end, they make me feel like the music and the scenes, the ending of the movie makes me feel like I can do anything. That's how I refer to it. When you watch any of the Night at the Museum movies and they're in the museum and they're playing that song from Earth, Wind, and Fire, it starts out and you're like, oh my gosh, I can do that. I can do this. I can do that. I can do anything. I can do just like, it elevates you to a point in your feelings. It just picks you up, and it's like a magic carpet ride that you go to the highest heights and you can see the entire planet. I mean, it's absolutely amazing how it makes you feel, and it's beautiful that music has that capability. And it's the reason why when Carol Collins, when we had the interview with her, that I asked the collective about sound vibration when it comes to cleansing our soul bodies, right? It's like you have a cleansing where you cleanse away all of the darkness and negativity and the heaviness of this earthly plane. Your personality disappears. It just cleanses everything away. Light and sound there. It's like sound therapy. And to me, that's what music is. It's sound therapy. Always has been. And just to tell you, I went to a party this weekend in Atlanta, a birthday party for a young lady who's a musician. We met her on the cruise in December. And her husband is a sax player. And they had a party to celebrate her birthday. And they were the entertainment for the party.
Oh, how fun.
It was amazing.
Awesome.
They did it. They took over a brewery for the night. And anybody could come in. And they invited a bunch of people. And all the music that they played, I don't think I haven't danced that much in a while because there is no place near me where I can hear that kind of music. But all the songs they played had that vibration that just sunk into every part of you, that high energy vibration that just made you feel amazing, that made you feel joyful, and just made you want to dance. It's unfortunate that a lot of that has disappeared in our world, and it's changed. The music has morphed. And I've had a few conversations with Eric, our last guest, since then by text. And he's the one that, like I said, would sent that particular video of that woman who music impacted, who had dementia. It was, and he loves that sort of thing, and I do too, because it gives you hope that some of the things that there's so much money, billions of dollars goes into drugs and other things. You forget about the simplest things. There's no focus on the simplest things that can make the most impactful difference that don't involve drugs and studies. You can see the results like this, and you can apply them right away. And you don't have to have dementia to make it happen, to affect that change. And I think that's what I'd like to get across to our audience right now, is that you don't have to have an illness, you don't have to have dementia or Alzheimer's or any other kind of situation. If you've lost someone, you've lost a pet, you've lost someone close to you, a child, whatever, music is one of the ways that you can move through it. It's an amazing element of alchemy that can transform your thinking, transform your feelings in a heartbeat. Beautiful. And a lot of people, I know people who don't want to engage in that because they too much like being in the lower frequencies, following in the lower frequencies, good.
I prefer to be in the higher frequencies, and you had recommended going to see the newest Avatar, which was a beautiful movie. But for me, the very beginning of that movie was very hard for me energetically, because I don't bombard it was like I was being bombarded with opposite of positive images, and just was like, I really hope this shifts. And it did shift, and it was beautiful, and it was so well done. But I thought, did we really need to have quite all that in the first half hour or whatever it was?
I know.
It was very difficult for me. So you felt that as well.
I did. However, one of the things that I realized, and I hope our audience does too, and it's something I need to ask Carol Collins about next time we speak with her. We ask the collective about this. When you know that you're going to be exposed to something that could disrupt your energy field in a negative way, is there any way that you can protect yourself? Because I'll tell you what I do. I go to movies like that and other things. When I'm engaged in seeing media, I realize one thing. The storyteller is going to, if it's a story of transformation, and most movies that I go to are stories of transformation, there has to be the contrast. I just don't invest in the contrast. I don't allow it to impact me. It's just, I know it's just part of the game of, you have to have, in order to understand white, you got to know black. You got to have that contrast. And so that's, any storyteller is going to start with the dark side in order to help you feel the light side, feel the light. Because if it's all light throughout, which it can be, a lot of, you understand, as the collective likes to say, 98%, 9 out of 10 people aren't thinking from energy field, aren't thinking from that what they expose them to is impacting the energy field and their grid, and thereby how they feel in any given moment. And that we want to, the goal is to keep our energy moving down the asphalt that's directly in front of us instead of behind us and left and right of us and up and down. It should be moving forward. The flow should be forward. So all I do when I see a movie like that is I realize right up front, I'm aware of the fact that there's going to be the contrasting story. And so I don't invest in it. I see it. I don't invest in it. I'm going, I know it gets better. And I don't invest in emotions and feelings in it. I'm seeing it, but it's sort of in a detached way. I'm saying to myself, this is going to evolve, and they just need to show this so that you can see what they evolved from. That's basically how I look at it. But the ending of the movie. Yeah, there's no way in the world that you can't look at that tree of life and not get a tear in your eye. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah. Oh, no, absolutely. I just closed my eyes. I thought, well, this is going to be done soon. I don't have to watch it. Okay, that's another way of doing it. That's wonderful. I mean, that's another way of doing it. And I know that sounds funny, but, I knew that we were going to get, like you did, on the other side, and there was going to be redemption and whatnot.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great story, though. 3 hours worth, 3 hours and 15 minutes of a story. And some people go in there and they're like judgmental about, the time. I'm going, who cares? It's entertainment. It's designed to entertain you. I'm not a critic.
It was beautiful. Yeah, no. And as you said, I mean, and I think it was a really powerful myth about integrating different cultures and how you accept and finding your own inner strength and finding exactly what we were saying before, finding your own inner hero. And really having to take a look and when you stand up, not just for yourself, but for your community as well. And I think that
powerful story. Find the message. Look for the message is what I tell people. Get away from the noise and distraction and find the message. There are some brilliant writers out there who created some amazing movies that happen to put forth some messages that we can all resonate with, right? But if you get caught up in the nuance of some little thing, you miss the message. And usually that thing you're caught up with, you've judged. So if you want to be more joyful and you want to step into more joy, judgment needs to disappear. Judgment needs to be something that gets relegated to, ancient times, because that is the one thing that, if you think about it, we want to judge things. We want to be critics of life. We want to be, out there. I don't know, for some reason. Generally, when we're amongst people, it's a self-importance kind of thing. However, judgment does get in the way of actually finding the message, of resonating with the message as well. Because you're stuck on some little nuance, and 98% of it, 99% of it's awesome, but we're focused on the 1%. and it taints the whole thing. It makes the whole thing toxic because now you've focused on that. And the lesson, find the message, find the lesson quickly, or at least be alert that there will be a message somewhere. Find that. That's the fifth dimensional thought that I love to operate from, and I hope our listeners can embrace more often.
Right. Yeah, I don't know if you ever remember the movie Pleasantville, or if you ever saw it, but the movie starts out in black and white, and everything is black and white. I think it's another really good metaphor, because if your story of your life is in black and white, all of a sudden when you change the frequency and you start to experience life in color, things change. You're like, oh, I didn't know that had that color to it. Or I didn't, you start to look at things a little bit differently. And so sometimes, like for me, I enjoy going to the botanical garden, and especially this time of year because all the spring flowers are out. And there are so many things that it's like new discoveries that I'm like, I've never seen that type of tulip. Yeah, there's a lot of tulips. But wow, when you really start to look at all the different kinds, some have fuzzy petals and some are just like spiky and some look like iridescent red ribbon. And I just was like, wow. And
there's a winery.
Wow. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's a winery in Napa. There's a winery in Napa that this time of the year plants 5,000 tulips.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Yeah,
it's the most gorgeous thing. You're just walking amongst tulips on their grounds. And it is so true. Wildflowers are about to blossom. I drive down I-10 and there's areas where just wildflowers are just here in the coming couple of weeks, where the wildflowers, which are just starting to grow and starting to blossom, will be just these huge patches of color. And these are the things, these make life, these kinds of experiences, spring, the smell of spring, totally different.
Right.
The smell of spring, the doves cooing. I know you have the cooing of doves in the morning.
Oh, yeah,
when you walk outside. It's just so special that, it just makes life so much more amazing. What's going on. That there's an awakening to a new season, and that you can just immerse yourself in it and just live within it. That to me, that's one of the most beautiful. The smells, the sights, but really the sounds of spring are totally amazing.
Right, and they create. Yeah, they create the joy in your life, and I think that's what's so powerful. Sometimes we think that it's, I got to get a new car or get a new house or a new watch or whatever, but it's really, there's an amazing power in just ordinary things to create extraordinary happiness. I mean, they are really what brings you joy. And like you said, Michael, like I love the spring. Like I could smell the hyacinth. And I know some people suffer from allergies, and so they really not happy when it's spring and there's a lot of pollen. But, maybe shift your focus away from the pollen and look, like you said, at the colors. And if you're driving, I know that different times of year you capture sunsets in your rear view mirror or your side mirrors or one of these, and there's never two sunsets that are ever alike, and we just have that one moment in time to enjoy it. And as frustrating as sometimes you'll go to take a picture and it just doesn't capture it.
No, it doesn't.
I know, it's like, oh my gosh, it's like, if only there were other people who could see how amazing this is. But then I just think, okay, well, you know what? I'm appreciating it now, and that's sort of what it is.
There's down here. There's something called a green flash, which can be seen. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but there's a very special thing. That. Yeah, when the water's calm enough, the humidity's low. And there's no wind. And a sunset when the sun drops directly into the ocean, with no clouds, no anything, and the ocean's like glass. Sometimes there'll be a flash of green just as the sun disappears. Just as the top edge of the sun hits the horizon, there'll be a little flash of green. And it's called the green flash. You can look it up online. Some people claim to have taken pictures of it. I don't think a video camera is going to capture it, although you'll see pictures of people the videos, there's a green flash. And I'm going like, let me just tell you something. The green flash cannot be seen through sunglasses. That's number one. Number two, it's something you have to be intensely focused on. You have to be watching. It's not something that, if you're taking a picture of it, you're not intensely focused on it, and you will miss it. So it's one of those really interesting things in life that occurs. And generally, it's not in the summer. It's in the early spring. It's in the late fall, and it's in the winter down here where I am, because that's the time of lowest humidity. And if you're out on the beach and it's 50 degrees or 40 degrees or whatever, and the wind is not blowing, the wind is calm, the sea is calm, it's likely that you can catch that flash. But it doesn't happen all the time. It's extremely rare. A lot of people down here have never seen it. I think I've seen it twice. I think my girlfriend's seen it 3 or 4 times. And really, 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 really kind of cool. But it's to me, that's kind of a metaphor for life. If you focus, if you're not in the moment, you miss the moment. Not in the moment, you miss it. And that goes for relational connection, everything. We live in a digital age where you can capture everything on film, and that's all well and good. However, you don't have the same feeling. You don't feel the experience from a memory perspective, a long-term perspective in your memory, if you're not in it. The feelings don't come from looking through a camera or a lens. They come from actually being within the experience, embedded in the experience, as I like to say. And I hit a shot. It's really interesting. I didn't even see this happen. But 2 weeks ago, I played golf, and I did something I haven't done in 10 years. From about 113 yards out, I hit a shot into the hole. 113 yards out.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Wow.
I did. Well,
that's fantastic.
It's not a hole in one. I've had 2 of those, but it's the next best thing. And we're talking about a 4-inch hole that a little white ball has to go into from 113 yards out. And you think about that, and you think about the metaphor for life that creates. That it's not something you can take a picture of because it happens when it happens. And
for sure.
Yeah, it's true. And to me, that's why I don't take a lot of pictures. I'll set some things up, whatever. Sandy and I someplace, my girlfriend and I, we're someplace, hey, we're here. But that's great. However, I put the thing down, and I want to be there. I want to say I was at the Soggy Dollar bar in the Caribbean at Joss Van Dyke, and I was having a great conversation with some friends while I was having their world famous painkiller. I mean, whatever. I like to be in the water. The water felt this way. The beach sand felt this way. I mean, it's you if you want to recall it from your memory banks, you have to be there. You have to have experienced it. You have to put yourself in that place, in the moment. And any good photographer will tell you that you take yourself out of the moment to curate the moment for yourself, but that's not the moment. The moment occurs because you curated your being there. Right? This little conundrum. You can either take a picture of the sunset or you can experience the sunset. But I guarantee you, your experience of it will trump in many ways, will far outweigh you're taking a picture of it. It will.
Right. And it's almost like looking in a mirror. Yeah, it's almost like looking in a mirror because they always say and that's one of those philosophical things that really boggles my mind, that when you never really are able to see a true reflection of yourself. And you think you're getting ready in the morning and whatnot, but how are people perceiving you? And I think for a lot of us, I know I don't consider myself photogenic, and so I don't like when people take pictures of me. That's my own hang up, right? Because it's the ego is involved, and I've got to start feeding the grid the opposite, right? I do.
That's interesting.
I recognize that. I do. I've got to start feeding the grid opposite.
That is amazing, because I've had people who see our card say, "Boy, she's lovely."
Oh, that's very sweet.
I have people say that. I give them our card, and I'm going, "Oh yeah, a card for the show, Connect 11." They go, "Oh my gosh, she's lovely." They see the two of us on the banner that you created. And what's interesting about it is that, well, for me, all I could think was, I wish you would change that perception, work on that, because that's making a judgment about yourself, which is actually ending up on your grid and your energy field, right?
Mm-hmm.
These things are all tied together. I'm telling you, we could go off. You could string these out for a millennium.
You're absolutely right.
All the ways that we ourselves, that the things that impact our feelings, the things we focus on, and how those things. The only thing I'm focused on right now, every day, I'm just running this experiment, is how what I'm exposing myself to is making me feel, because there are feelings associated with what you see, right? So I see, taste, touch, hear. I am running this little experiment for myself and listening to myself. I don't have to concern myself with the self-talk. I've got that mastered. That's done years ago. However, I'm making choices now about something that I want to watch on TV or a movie I want to watch. I already don't watch horror, and I don't watch a lot of gory stuff.
Right, neither do I.
And all that. To me, that just it doesn't make you feel good. It just clogs the grip. Fear, in my view, is not the kind of feeling I want to imprint on my energy field. Some people, it's great. Some people love, scary stuff. I grew up with the stuff that looked fake. Black and white Dracula movies. Okay. I mean, at 11 years old, we were watching Dracula, and we were watching Bela Lugosi and all of these other things, which technically they look fake. I mean, that's all there is to it. I grew up with that stuff. However, you can also say to yourself one thing when you're watching something, because my brother's an actor and I've been to like dozens of movie sets and seen how movies are made. In real life, I don't relate to movies the same way that other people relate to movies. I see something happening, and what's going through my mind is how they created that to make it look that way, right? What was going on? Right. I know what blocking is, scene blocking, all that kind of stuff. And I told somebody the other day, I said, that little simple scene where they cut to the one person's face and they're talking, and then they cut to the other person's face and you see what they look like when the other person's talking, and then they cut back to that person. Well, that takes 5 hours. That takes 5-6 hours. Sometimes it can take a whole day. And they go, "What?" I said, "Yeah, because it's the most boring thing in the world, being on a movie set, because of the way things happen, the way they create what they create." So when I see a movie or I see a television show, I look, and I'm into the nuts and bolts, not what I'm actually seeing. It doesn't impact me feeling-wise. It doesn't impact me because I'm thinking about the nuance and the mechanics behind it. And that's one way of going through life and dealing with things that are negative. That there's things happen.
Yeah, it's interesting when you bring that up, Michael, because if you think about scene blocking, you could actually do that with shifting from positive to the opposite, opposite of positive to positive. You could actually think about that. Like, okay, I'm passing that over to you. So you're over here and I don't need that anymore. And I think Carol and the Yeshua Collective recommended Post-it notes so that you keep those positive affirmations, those visions of what you want to feed the grid all around you, so you're seeing them all the time. And one of the two words that I really love that I tracked and I have incorporated, I'm really, are always and perfect. My life is always perfect. I always have the perfect amount of money in my bank account to pay all my bills. I always have perfect health. And I recognize, I'm like, that's and the more that you say it, I'm like, always perfect, always perfect, always perfect. And even though on that opposite side of that scene, you've got the presentation of another narrative, and the more that you play in the always perfect, it's going to strengthen that. And so that's what I've been feeding my group.
I love it. That is absolutely spectacular. Well done. Well said. I like that. I really think that's, and I remember that Carol says, I always, and I love statements before she goes into meditation, which is really quite cool. And, what if we woke up that way in the morning? What if we woke up, and said, my life is always perfect. This morning is always amazing. My mornings are always amazing.
You do that, perfect. Though. You always say, you have made it a rule. This is your rule, that your day is going to be awesome. My days are always awesome. And I have heard that come out of Michael J. Rose's mouth. Absolutely.
Well, that's mainly because I have no idea what's going to occur that day, and I'm not going to brand it as bad. I'm branded as the best thing possible. That's basically it. The day is amazing. So when if I get out 2 miles from home and my car breaks down, the day is still amazing. I just got to call a tow truck. That's all I have to do. And I make a couple of calls to say, what, I was on my way there, but it isn't going to happen. Let's reschedule. And that's happened to me 3 times, twice with tires, twice, actually 4 times, twice with engine, twice with tires. And it's fine. You just reschedule. You just move things around. Think about it this way. Maybe I wasn't supposed to be on the road, and that was my car telling me, doing it for me. Making sure that I wasn't on the road to be in a certain place that that would have not been so good for me had I been there. Right? All kinds of things can happen. But I love it. I always have the perfect amount of money. I always have
perfect health.
Perfect health, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I like it. Yeah. That is a great statement. By the way, the statement I use most often every day is I'm a beautiful, passionate, loving, and giving man. That's the one I use every day.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
You have to.
So I'm going to just remind our audience, I'm so grateful that you join us here on Connect to Love on PRN FM, and I'm going to just read this again, and then I'm going to let you close out the show. So if everything is sound and vibration, you're the DJ of your own existence, and I'm going to turn it over to my favorite DJ, Michael J. Ross, to close out the show.
There's only one thing I can say, and that is make the hottest music you can. Make the hottest music, most loving music. Make music that makes you move and think and know that life is amazing. I mean, if you've got this, if you can create any arrangement for yourself, why would you create a negative arrangement? So make a positive arrangement, the most positive arrangement that you can possibly have, because that is going to feed the law of attraction. And what you see, you get. What you think, you get. That's it.
That's beautiful. Thank you. And until next time here on Connect to Love, thank you, and abundant blessings to you all.